All right. Hey, everyone. That was the artist Bread with the songs Everything I Own and The Guitar Man. That's that's a band that my parents always used to play. So I love their music. Grew up listening to it. So let's take a look at the lyrics here. So starting with Everything I Own. So as we often talk about, we can look at this from just a simple surface sort of romantic song about love lost, or we can examine this as the greatest love story ever told, and this is our reconnection love song to God. So I would give everything I own. Once you taste that divine connection, then nothing in this physical space matches that. And so we would give everything we own. So let's look at the lyrics. You sheltered me from harm, kept me warm, kept me warm. You gave my life to me, set me free, set me free. The finest years I ever knew were all the years I had with you. So when we stay in that connected space, when we're staying, knowing that we are a part of this creation, we are an aspect of the creation, and we're never disconnected from God. So God gave us our life to me, consciousness, and set me free. And we're always better when we stay connected to that. But of course, the experience, we fall into it. So we can lose that. It's not completely, but we can lose the, just that consistency of it. So, and I would give anything I own, give up my life, my heart, my home. I would give everything I own just to have you back again. So again, once you taste that connection, then everything else becomes secondary. So we would give everything just to have that again. You taught me how to love, what it's of. So what does it mean to love? You never said too much, but still you showed the way. So it's the unseen, immaterial guidance of the divine. So he never said too much. It's not something that comes in audible words, but still you showed the way, that Christ essence. And I knew from watching you, nobody else could ever know the part of me that can't let go, because no one else can get in between us and that connection. So that's why it's all within, because nobody else could ever know the part of me that can't let go, that heart-centered right brain connection to the divine. And then it repeats, I would give anything I own, give up my life, just to have you back again. Is there someone you know, you're loving them so, but taking them all for granted? You may lose them one day, someone takes them away, and they don't hear the words you long to say. So again, we can look at this from like a heartbreak perspective, or it's just a invitation to not take our connection to God for granted. You know, this divine flow, we can get complacent, we can get sort of arrogant and thinking that we've got the connection down, and pride comes before the fall. And so this is sort of like a warning for that. And then it repeats again. I would give anything I own just to have you back again, just to touch you once again. So yeah, that's Everything I Own by Bread. And then the next song, The Guitar Man. So all is sound, frequency, vibration. And who is the guitar man but Christ? So playing the chords, playing the music, playing the songs are representative of showing the way, giving this experience in that way. So let's look at the lyrics. Who draws the crowd and plays so loud? Baby, it's the guitar man. Christ. So who brings that in? Who's going to steal a show? You know, baby, it's the guitar man. When that Christed energy enters, it's very powerful. He can make you love. He can make you cry. He will bring you down and he'll get you high. So what is the chrism oil? What does it do? It goes down the chimney from the claustrum, is born in a manger as the seed, and then rises back up again. So he'll bring you down and he'll get you high, make you love, make you cry. Something keeps him going miles and miles a day to find another place to play. So as we're going through this process of going down and back up again, that's the perpetual journey of the figure eight, of that divine movement. So he keeps going to find another place to play, to find another area where that Christed energy is needed. So the Q is the Christ. And as I've talked about before, Q as the letter, it's a circle with a slash in it, right? And that's the exit point. So Q is the circuit breaker, the loop disruptor. And that's what Christ is. So to find another place to play, to find an opportunity to break free from the loop. That's what Christ does. So in an internal sense, this would be if we are locked in a certain chakra. You know, if energy in a certain area within our life is blocked, then the Christ is going to go there and it's going to play, and that's going to inspire us to see whatever it is that is blocking. And as long as we're not attached to that, then we can transmute that and move through it. But often we get attached to the stickiness. And so he keeps playing there. The Christ keeps inviting us to transmute that. So night after night, who treats you right? Baby, it's the guitar man. Who's on the radio? Who treats you right? So again, right brain. Who's on the radio? You go and listen to the guitar man. So when those frequencies are being broadcasted, we go and we listen. Then he comes to town and you see his face and you think you might like to take his place. Something keeps him drifting miles and miles away, searching for the songs to play. So he's always in that divine flow, letting God lead to where the Christed energy is most needed. Then you listen to the music and you like to sing along because it's a part of you. You have that Christ within, and you want to get the meaning out of each and every song. Then you find yourself a message and some words to call your own and take them home. So you want to get the meaning out of each and every song. Jesus only spoke in parables. So these ancient texts often have many meanings within the words. And depending on the level that you're reading them is the message that you're going to receive. So we want to get the meaning out of each and every song, out of each and every word. But then we find ourselves a message that's appropriate for us and some words to call our own and take them home. And that process just continually evolving, unfolding. So then it repeats here. He can make you laugh. He can get you high. He will bring you down. Then he'll make you cry. Something keeps him moving, but no one seems to know what it is that makes him go. The Energizer Bunny, like perpetual energy, continuous movement, magnetic motion. No one seems to know how that magnetism continues to flow. Then the lights begin to flicker and the sound is getting dim. The voice begins to falter and the crowds are getting thin, but he never seems to notice. He's just got to find another place to play. Fade away. Got to play. So as that energy is immaterial, the energy does fade away and it moves to wherever it's needed. So yeah, that's the song The Guitar Man by Bread. Both of those are excellent songs, so I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, welcome to another Quest-i-on, the quest to illuminate the single eye, the quest I'm on, where we gather and see what comes up, see what sort of questions are on everybody's mind, see what situations have been brought up in the past week or so or longer. So this is an open and completely open discussion for any and all to participate in. So if you find yourself with a topic or a question or just something you would like to share, feel free to raise your hands, which is hitting that center button on your screen, and that will signal to me to open up your mic, and then I can call on you. You're always welcome to chime in. And if you have anything that you want to chime in on a particular topic, like you just want to add to maybe an answer that has been shared, feel free to chime in on that as well. You know, I'm not here claiming to have all the answers, nor would I ever do that. So I love to share this space with others who are wise and seeking and have learned some things. And so if you find yourself in that space, then definitely join in the conversation. So let's see, some announcements today. Well, we've got still working with the orphans in Uganda. So just trying to make sure that they have enough to take care of themselves, to feed all the children. So if you find yourself wanting to help out with that, that's greatly appreciated. You can give on any of my contribution links, justincarpenter.org/contribute. And you can find all the payments here that you can make a donation. And if you want that to go to Bali and the children, just make sure to specify that in there. There's also a GiveSendGo where you can give for that cause as well. So that's givesendgo.com/Lions of Uganda. Greatly appreciated there, just to keep them at least at a minimum to take care of themselves and have the food that they need. So thank you to all who have helped out with that, and that's greatly appreciated. I'm still also working with the Foxhole Foundation over in the North Carolina area. So they are still diligently helping out people and making sure people get what they need, especially as we move through this last little cold snap of winter. So if you want to help out with that at all, you can go to foxholefoundation.org. That's FQXHOLE foundation.org. So Foxhole with a Q for the first O. And so that's that. And then just a reminder that I am 100% donation supported as well. So doing my best to make do with what I've got, and so I can continue providing all of this to you all. So if you want to help out in any of that capacity, that's very helpful. There are other ways that you can help out besides just financially. So if you find yourself in a tight space but want to help out, you can certainly take a stab at writing notes or timestamps for any of these shows. Carol does a phenomenal job Donna Dika does a phenomenal job at writing the notes for them, and I'm always posting those. Always so very appreciative of her hard work for that. It's really quite something. I mean, I'll just show you the last ones I added, just to show the depth that these notes get into, and they have the timestamps within them, so it shows you where everything is, and so you can go immediately to that section. But look at all this. I mean, this is all details from that show. So she uses AI to kind of help compile the information that's gone on in there, and then that just helps it make it searchable for people in the future. So if you want to help out doing something like that, any show that is on this site that doesn't have notes, I would love to add them to it. So if you want to do something like that, feel free to take a look at anything on the site that doesn't have a section like this, and you can add to that. And make sure to check out Don Dika's channel, Rabbit Trails and Bunny Tails. I've got that link there as well. So that's a great way to help. You can also help out with creating little clips from these shows as well. That's always incredibly appreciated when people do that, because it is a very time-consuming thing. But I always love when that happens, because it helps to make the information more approachable for people. And so if you find yourself wanting to make a smaller clip from that, please let me know, and I'm happy to help in any which way to get you started there. And yeah, what else? I think that's about it as far as the announcements today. So yeah, we'll just jump right into the show. So I love to give priority. I do have a few questions that I've received, and people are always welcome to send me questions outside of the live stream. So you can send them any which way that you can reach me. At Justin Carpenter is how you can reach me on Telegram, or any which way, Facebook, writing comments in the groups, wherever. And I'll store that for a future show, and we can go over those. But I do love to give priority to those who are here live on the show, just because it's more fun to have like a dynamic discussion on a topic, and we can really flesh it out. So yeah, if anyone is here that would like to jump in and share anything or start us off with a topic or question, now would be a wonderful time to jump in.
Hey, it's Lila.
Hey, Lila.
Hi. Yeah, I thought I'd jump in. I wanted to share a little bit of something that's been going on with me that some people know and some don't. But and then I thought it would be such a lovely conversation. I was having it with a fellow member of the group last night, and I just thought, wow, I'd like to take this to the bigger group. So some people know that I've been dealing with high blood sugar issues. And what had happened was I've just gone really high in my blood sugar. So I've been trying to work with it for about the last year, without medication or, basically a Western doctor approach. And it's been sadly just getting worse. So it's brought up a lot for me because obviously I'm very anti-drug. I don't even take Tylenol. I haven't used anything like those things for a really long time. And yeah, it's just really challenging to be kind of looking at that world of Western medicine and wrapping my mind around things like having to, test my blood sugar levels constantly, etc. And actually, Justin, you had shared a really lovely testimonial of a woman who's also like raw into fruit, these kinds of things, and how her blood sugar was going up. And I really enjoyed it. So we'll post that again on JC Family if anybody else is interested in seeing that. But the deeper conversation that I was having with my friend last night was this idea around, the emotional components or causes or alignment to, the disease known as diabetes. And it's something like, at least in Louise Hay's way of looking at it, this sort of like a loss of the sweetness of life. And I thought that was so interesting because, as we were talking about it, it's like, okay, of course, yeah, I'm looking at it in my personal reality. But, in the grander scheme, and my friend was pointing this out, like, this is sort of a, earth-wide epidemic, which literally diabetes is right now, right? With this loss of the sweetness of life and what we've kind of been corralled into, which is this like slavitude to the cabal and even more, right? The darker things that exist around what's been going on. Yeah, certainly can lead to somebody feeling literally hunted, right? Especially if you're a child that grew up in the Americas, North or South America, or these other places where it does seem like they were very much specifically focusing on disappearing children, etc. So we had this conversation, and then I was just having a really deep sort of meditation into it, and my own meditation of feeling like my parents had sort of agreed to like live in the middle of nowhere in Alaska because of their own awareness of what was happening in many ways around the earth, more focused on kind of conspiracy things. Like I think some of like I watched the movie Brazil when I was like 9 or something. My mom at least was like very much aware of sort of the shadow government and these kinds of things. But on the grander scheme of things, or into the realm of this sort of child trafficking, abuse, and pedophilia, all of this stuff, my mom had grown up in Cocoa Beach, Florida. And that was one of her like biggest issues, was like she called them, the Chester molesters. That was kind of a term of that time. And, obviously had been exposed to them in her growing up because she, they had a lot more freedom during that time. And they definitely were kind of going all over in their little town of Cocoa Beach. And, they were all beautiful kids. They were beautiful children that were tan. And, my mom was like a star volleyball player. So, she's been exposed to her fair share of creeps over her life. Let's put it that way. Um, and then also, she was raised in an upper level military family. So, there was a lot of awareness in the military realm around lots of things, the more conspiracy theory type things like JFK Senior, getting assassinated by the CIA, all the way down to like what's going on, with the children and why are they all disappearing. So her answer to that was to take her children and move to the middle of nowhere in Alaska. So for me, I don't know, I thought it was an interesting conversation to sort of think about and invite in around how have we lost the energetic components of the sweetness, the godliness, the alignment of living on the earth as God's children in the earthly realm because of these really extreme circumstances that we're all living in, whether we've kind of been clueless and we're sort of been either insulated from it, or just it hasn't affected us, specifically to those people that have, for instance, I have some clients that are ritual satanic abuse survivors, right? So obviously they've dealt with it much more closely, and what that's cost all of us, and how our awareness and focus can first acknowledge it, right? And then move into a place of working with it in a really conscious way versus just kind of putting it on the back burner. Or, well, I'll speak for myself. It's kind of like, I've been sort of like, well, I'm very aware of it, but I've been blessed that, I was never abducted. I was never satanic child ritualized, abused, or, these kinds of things. So, this isn't really something that is an issue for me. But here I am with a very, very high blood sugar level of diabetic blood sugar level right now. I know that it can be healed, and I know it will be. So I'm not concerned in that direction necessarily, but I am looking at the deeper implications and what it's cost, like my innocence, and even then therefore my physical body to know on one level, on a spiritual level, that this is not the way life was supposed to be for all of us. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that to the group, and I'd love to hear your comments on it, but also anybody else who feels moved to share their viewpoint on it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Lila. It is it's an yeah, it's an interesting sort of correlation there to see just kind of how, I mean, it's like we've almost grown so, like, we've been so traumatized by, it's like the sweetness is it's like the body views the sweetness as a trap because we've been tricked so many times. At least that's what kind of came up for me, is like we're so, our trust has been so eroded, and that playing out on a physical level to the point to where the body doesn't even trust the natural sweetness that God's providing in the fruit. And that's like energetically would seem very fitting, given that sort of trap has been set so many times, where it's like our blissful innocence taken advantage of, lured into dark holes with sweet temptations. And so then we don't even trust them any longer. Yeah, it is an interesting sort of thing to draw upon. I mean, that's just kind of what it came up initially, but I'd love to hear if anyone else has any experience there or just wants to share on that topic. I see Carrie.
I wanted to reply to you really quick before that person comes on. I just wanted to say that that's such a true way of looking at it, and that within the Western, because of course I'm talking to doctors that are like, you should not be doing this. Now, I just want to be clear: my blood sugar levels were already high before I went vegan and so hardcore on the fruit. So, but it has been interesting to see the vilification, right, of the natural fruit from that perspective. And also, like, yeah, maybe just at this point, my pancreas has been so damage from other things in my life, including mold and stress and, these kinds of things, that, I'm just one specific little experience in this grand scheme of things. But yeah, it's really interesting. And then you just look at, like, generally emotionally what people do. And I can relate to this because innocence, to go around to the human design perspective, my motivation is innocence. And I have always been made fun of, actually, in my social circles, sometimes in a loving way, but sort of for being gullible or Pollyanna-ish, or, that innocence has been a big part of me, that hopefulness, that, like, okay, come on guys, we can do it. But what has been celebrated by American media and many others, but certainly American media has kind of been leading it, is that, like, kind of snarky, sarcastic, even disdainful of an innocent energy, because it just is obviously completely unacceptable to the powers that be, which is so interesting because what they really want to harvest off of is the innocence of children, the children that are more innocent, that are virgins, that, have been raised well, and been protected, and in, maybe a religious family or something like that, are actually seen as more desirable to those energies that want to create, an adrenochrome response in them, right? So, for instance, a child that has gone through the foster care program and has had, maybe already a lot of either abuse or especially sexual abuse and those kinds of things in their lives from either their family of origin or within the foster program, is not seen as desirable to these people that are paying for these things as the like innocent little girl from the country who's never been exposed to any of it. So that's just fucking sick, but also like so interesting that that's really what they want more, and they're willing to pay much more money for that, right? So yeah, this it's just so sad how it's been made to be like a dirty word, and the innocence and the hopefulness and the purity, I guess we would say, right? And how that's infiltrated everything, even down to like just maybe you're not abusing a child or anything, but there's that snarkiness. And I just had a remembrance of the first time my son's father was sarcastic to my son. And my son, he was about a little over a year. So he was just starting talking and, deeply understanding words and these kinds of things. And his dad sort of was like thinking it was funny with whatever he did. And it was like he was going to hand him something. But then when my son went to get it, he like pulled it back, just like some kind of like playful teasing like thing. But it was like I watched my son be confused and confounded by it, and then have the emotional reaction to like, why are you doing that to me, daddy? Like, and he literally did start crying. Like it was such a moment of like, what, and it was just innocent, but it also was really interesting to see, the purity within him, and that expectation of things just be like above board and straight up and loving, which was life he had gotten up until that point. And then, for his dad to kind of think it was funny and start laughing, that was like very upsetting to him. That was just kind of a something that just came into my mind. But like, I remember being like, oh, like, ooh, we've all been so programmed that, this is, oh, that's funny. It's funny to be sarcastic. It's funny to be snarky.
Yeah, great point there. And it is like you mentioned the sort of paradox of how the cabal or that energy hates innocence. They can't stand it because it reminds them of what they've let die within themselves. And they hate it because it represents the purity of the divine, and they hate that. But the sort of irony in it is that they can't be without it. Like that is their treasure. Their highest goal is to harvest that innocence, that purity. So yeah, it is a sort of interesting paradox there with that they have to face. And yeah, it's a great topic. I want to hear from Carrie though. What did you want to share?
Um, I am actually not sure how I joined this group. This suddenly appeared in my Telegram list. I'm not sure if anyone knows me here.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen you before, but yeah, this is just a conversation where we get to talk about all these topics. So right now we're talking about sort of just I don't know if you've heard the topic that we're on, but I didn't know if you wanted to jump in on that one.
Well, Yeah, I'm a very I like to share, and I know all these topics, and I know I've been researching since very actively since 2020, and I went into the deepest rabbit holes, and I looked at everything, and I wanted to know. Well, I wanted to. The reason why I wanted to. I felt like my whole life, like I'm not supposed to be here, like I'm not at home, like I'm lost and like homesick. And so I started looking that what is the answer, that am I in the right place? And now I have found a lot of I found the last rabbit hole, and now it seems that I found the answer to 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 what I was looking for. And I started talking about everything and in different live streams and here in Telegram, and yeah, I've gone through a lot of transformations, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I fasted since last end of August. I fasted for not like with water fast, but liquid fast, like water and juice and so on. For 63 days, I did not eat for 63 days because I was very, very heavy. I'm still heavy, and my life changed completely, especially in the second month. And I like became something else. I like connected with my spirit, like my higher self spirit, and it like took over. And now I'm that, and it's been a really strange journey. Like every day, the next day is even stranger and stranger. And yeah, I know all these topics you're talking about, and I'm just, yeah, I have some, I don't have many questions. I have answers. I know about health too. You talked about diabetes. My father died of diabetes. I probably was close to get it or die, because I got very sick, and they had to remove the appendix. And so I think I was very close to death, and I had operation. So, but because I wanted to know so much, I wanted to really know what happens after life, and I wanted to know where I will go, and am I safe after death, and am I saved? Is my soul with Father, with Creator? And the answer was like yes, but it's more. Not that simple, like heaven and hell, and it's more. There's even more. And just before this group ended up, I was drinking, and I noticed there was some piece of plastic in the cup. I have no idea where it got. I was sipping, and I felt something in the lip, and there's a weird looking piece of plastic, and I have no idea where it came from. And so when I saw this, well, I saw your name. It called me because your name is Carpenter, and it reminded me of Jesus. And so intuitively I joined, and I don't know, it's like a synchron. I don't even know how I ended up here, but it's like a synchronicity. And yeah, I know a lot. I don't have all the answers, but I went really, really deep into the structure of the pyramid, and I wanted to know like what's in the very top and what's underneath and how it goes down. And so firstly I fasted. Since then I continued searching more, and then I just got like the deepest answers, and then I've been sharing this to everyone, and then my life changed because I noticed that I just know everyone. When I go outside, I just can like read them spiritually, and like I'm aware of them, they're aware of me, and now I'll feel like I thought I was in a life danger. I thought somebody's gonna come and kill me, because everyone is like aware of me. And so now I realize it's okay in the last days, because I've been sleeping enough. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share anything, and I don't know everything, but I wanted to know the answers, and I guess that's why I'm here. So um, I guess that's my introduction. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. And it sounds like you're in the right place. I mean, this is a
Yeah,
yeah, we've all been going on our, of course, it's an individual journey going through that awakening and sort of wiping the sleepies away from our eyes. But this is a great opportunity to come together and share about each of our journeys. And it sounds like you've been doing some diligent work to, going on a juice cleanse and helping to rid your body of old accumulated waste is kind of like what we were talking about with the allegory around why diabetes shows up energetically. Of course we can come up with physical reasons of why that might come up, but energetically, why are we seeing a bodily rejection to something that is so natural and pure and truly the highest form of energy that it's searching for? So how could something so simple and natural be turned into such an unnatural reaction around it? And that's, due to a lot of reasons, but energetically is like what Lila was mentioning and what I brought up around the fact that the sweetness has been sort of distorted. It's been tainted. Somebody's poisoned the well. And so some people's bodies literally react to it in that way. And of course, it doesn't help having the continued destruction of our bodies through processed foods and things of that nature. But yeah, it is an interesting topic to discuss. So yeah, really glad that you're here, and thanks for the introduction. And yeah, feel free to chime in on anything or ask anything or whatever you like. This is an open discussion within that. So happy to have you here, and yeah, just appreciate that. So thanks for being here, and go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, thank you. Well, I don't know about diabetes specifically, but I have discovered, well, thanks to one friend who told me about it, and then I did the fasting, and I found out this. There's a book, and and it's something very deeply hidden, basic information about health. It's about the quality of water, and I think this wouldn't be an issue like hundreds and thousands of years ago, but because we live in this very extremely toxic environment where everything is poisoned, like the air and the water and the food and everything, and that's why my friend told me that the solution for this is like extreme toxicity requires extreme method of removing, which is not like extreme, so to speak, but fasting. Like it's very challenging for many people, and it wasn't for me for some reason. Maybe because my body was I was eating a lot of sugar, but before I started, so maybe that helped. I don't know, but yeah. So I discovered this very simple scientific truth about water: that water is an inorganic molecule, like like oxygen, water, and when water is polluted, like the tap water or bottled water or even filtered water, then the solution is to is clean water, because when the water is polluted, it's positively charged, like magnetically positively charged, and all the inorganic materials, heavy metals, anything that doesn't belong to a natural human body is also positively charged. So the positive water does not attract the positively charged um, crap in the body, and which is a multitude of things, like heavy metals and probably some nano stuff too these days. And the solution was for me and for many people. I was in a group where there was over 50 people experimenting on their body with this, and basically it was just that the water has to be distilled. It needs to be boiled so that in a slow way, so that it drip. You put in a machine, and then comes like dripping down, and it's pure water then. Um, so I've been drinking that distilled water since end of August last year, and I consider it very safe. And many other people consider it safe. I haven't heard anyone who said it's not safe. However, if you go to internet, it says it's not safe. And that's the simple truth. And there was a man who has a very advanced body now. He doesn't need food anymore, and he said that it's required to drink 4 liters a day because the body is like dehydrated, and it needs to be firstly hydrated. And once it starts hydrated, then it starts producing like large amount of the urine, and that's how you know you're hydrated, that you have to go to the bathroom. And it is necessary that like the intestine, the large intestine, the small intestine, and the colon, everything is just very dried up there, and it needs to be hydrated. And drinking distilled water hydrates it because it's negatively charged, and it attracts these. First, it hydrates everything, and then it starts attracting this, all this bad stuff from the body, and then you just have to run to the bathroom all the time, basically. And it can be also done while eating. So just 4 liters of distilled water per day, whether fasting or eating, it works. I have a video, 35-second video that explains it. I can share that. It's visual, and this is very new. It was just released by the teacher. And so there's an old book that the doctor was treating people, and basically it was like that the clean water should heal all illnesses, including the worst things that are killing really people. And that knowledge I can share, and I can also share some videos that explains it, and the book I can share, and yeah. So I'm happy to share because it sounds like there's a need for this knowledge here, and I'm also happy to talk about everything else because I feel comfortable sharing about the structures of the pyramid. And so basically I'm just I was raised as Christian, and then later in my adult life I kind of drifted off to this new age stuff, and then I don't know, I was looking for answers, and I went through different things like psychedelics and some kind of a public type of flower of life, Fibonacci related kind of mystery school that it was public, so not hidden, and all kinds of stuff that are like public, So I'm basically just a normal guy that is very burned out and kind of somehow very traumatized, but I've been healing a lot. And yeah, everything started from ayahuasca, psychedelics. So yeah, I had quite a journey, and I honestly feel like I've lived like 1,000 lives in this life, because when I look back in my life, I've just done so much. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here because I've been in a few live streams before, and it started echoing, you know, and I was getting tired, and there was nobody online, and now I see there's 29 people here, and it feels more real now. I thought I was like a little bit stuck in the Telegram, and I started getting tired of it. So yeah, I'm happy to say anything. I have a lot of knowledge and documents and videos and everything. So like a whole library. So I'm happy to share, and I'm happy to be here. I feel resonated here. Like I see the number 333 on your website. I keep seeing that all the time, and that resonates with me. And your name is highly resonating with me.
Well, thanks,
Thank you.
brother. Yeah, thank you, and thanks for being here. Really appreciate the information, and yeah, I just want to say that this is a pretty advanced group. So all that you shared is are things that we've talked about, and definitely the structure of water and the mechanical use of it for pulling out the positively charged toxins is very helpful. So having that negatively charged water is extremely helpful. You can actually add a another layer of negative charge to the water by stirring it with silver or placing silver in it. Gold also has the same effect. So that helps to impart more of a negative charge into the water and bring some life into it as well. Because distilled water is great from a mechanical sense of being the purest form of water. However, there are some concerns that it's like it's deadened by that process. You know, you're heating it and you're taking it away from the living source of the earth, which is going to naturally move it through and energize it in that way. So one way to bring life back into the water after distillation is to have a stirring process where you stir it with a piece of silver, or perhaps place crystals or things in it. You can charge it in the sun as well. And this helps to bring an extra layer of life to that water, as you'd find. You know, I think ideal situation would be us to have good quality springs that we could get the water from, maybe filter it to get any excess minerals out of it, but then that has that living structure of the water with still maintaining that purity. And the earth is naturally going to bring that negative charge to water as well, as we can bring our bodies into a more negative space by grounding, dispelling that positive energy from the thoughts and the emotions and the toxins and all of that, to bring it down to that level. By discharging into the earth. So yeah, great stuff, great topics. But I want to make sure we finish the topic around the energetic implications of diabetes and what that represents. So I want to make sure we cover that topic. I saw Lila, you were trying to speak, and then we'll pass it over to Beth as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Carrie, and thank you so much. It's so lovely to meet you. And I had, well, one question was, when you said you did the Flower of Life work, was that by chance with Melchizedek? The an amazing man. I studied with him too, like in the early 2000s. So I just kind of felt like maybe we had that same training, possibly, but maybe not. And then the other thing I wanted to say was, yeah, I put crystals into reawaken my water that is distilled. I've been drinking distilled water pretty much exclusively for 2.5 years at this point. And I also do these crystal drops. I'll put it on the JC family. When I can afford them, I add that to my water too. And I think, I know, because I muscle test and pendulum it, and it's much more living structure than when it's just my distilled water. But in this case, you know, my blood sugar levels have raised not just a little bit, but a lot. So I've basically gone up from 5.8 2 years ago to 9.6 right now. And that's pretty extreme. And so that's interesting because I have been, you know, doing exclusively distilled water. And yeah, I've never been able to make it longer than, I think the longest water / urine fast I've done was at this point 7 days. But I have been doing intermittent fasting at a 15 or 16 hour window for I mean, it's not quite a year, but I think I started that in like June or so. So it's interesting that it's gotten so extreme with all, making all of these changes, to my health. So anyways, just something to consider. But what else I was going to say is that back to sort of more the emotional components of it, which I find interesting, is that loss of the sweetness of life. And I can say for myself, and I know for my clients and just my friends here in this group and other truther groups, and people that really know what's going on the earthly plane to one extent or another, some extent to another, I meant to say, this deep sorrow in like how our earth has been taken over, and as we've realized, oh, this was this and this, like for instance, UNICEF, or these programs that were like meant to save the children, Mother Teresa, or if this is true, these darker stories that have been told about Mother Teresa or Oprah, or these people that were like, oh, they're helping the orphans, and then it's like, well, there's maybe some question of were they helping or were they actually harvesting them? The Clinton Foundation and their programs to help Haiti and these kinds of things, right? And just the like deep sorrow that I just feel in my heart around, the advantage that has been taken of the innocent, but not just the innocent in the children that, of course that's paramount, but the innocence of all the people that were donating the money, or were believing that these people are being helped, and we're continuing to support and like raise people up like, oh, you're this amazing person in our society, and then come to find out like you're doing this, and when I was reading about it, that resonates so strongly with me, of just being so sad and heartbroken about the level that it's gone to, and not just like, oh, there's a few bad apples, but like, oh my God, like this person, and I'll say, of course, I know that there are people that have been playing roles, and not everybody that we think is as a baddie or the cabal necessarily is. So I know that's a very complicated conversation. It's one that Charlie Freak has a lot, and there's a lot of people that we thought were bad that are maybe good, but let's face it, we're not really going to know until, and I hate this term in a way, but till the fat lady sings, like until we get to the end of this, we're not really going to know who was what. And in my opinion, I think that it's a slippery slope, and even a dangerous slope, to spend too much time trying to convince myself or others who is good slash or quote quote good, or who is bad. Like I feel like that can be distracting, and can be a lot of energy put into something that like some of us just really don't know until we get to the end of this. And so for me, it's been something that hasn't really served me, because I feel like it's created a lot of division in the Patriot truther community. Even in my own life, it's created a lot of unnecessary division and fighting, about like whatever. So, I mean, some of us remember the whole thing that happened with when Sound of Freedom came out, and that drove even this community, some members of this community, apart of whether the Sound of Freedom, Angel Networks, etc., is quote unquote good or bad, right? So anyways, it's I really wanted to just like dive into this conversation a little bit more deeply, to just name it, for myself, and sort of a vulnerable, humbling moment of like how much this is showing up, even though I'm doing the distilled water, and I'm doing the fruit, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, like it really resonates, this deep sorrow at the loss of the sweetness of life that I know is my birthright, our birthright, that we are here to be experiencing, and how that has been systematically, incrementally stripped away from us. and how to not ignore it, all the phases, ignore, defend, all these things. It's like just to be like with it, and be like, wow, here it is. And here it literally for me is certainly very much up in my physiology within my system. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Lila. And thanks for your patience, Beth. I wanted to pass it over to you.
Hey, Justin. Hey, everybody. Let me know if you can hear me okay, because I'm in my car.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, it's not too loud or weird. Okay. Wow. Thanks, everybody, for showing up today and holding space. It's really good to connect with you guys. And I just wanted to say to Carrie, thank you for speaking up and for joining and for sharing. I had a moment when you were speaking, and it reminded me of when I fell into this group on the first time, and I'm not even sure I could remember that conversation or whatever I shared, but I welcome you, and I'm glad that you shared. I was actually happy when you spoke for quite a while, because I got so excited when Lila was sharing that I wanted to share, and I'm just being a little careful with that lately, because I still am navigating some things with my nervous system and communication and things like that. But yeah, it allowed me a little bit of space to pull over and park and kind of gather my thoughts and take a couple deep breaths. So Lila, I was so happy that you shared your vulnerability and something that you needed help with. And I'm always excited when I hear your voice. There's just something that starts buzzing in my body. So that's going on right now. But also the things that you mentioned were so deep to me. I connected a lot with a lot of the things you said, but the thing that caught my attention in the first place was the diabetes, of course. I used to be, in a former life, a health coach and diabetes educator for the other side, we'll call it. So I found myself in that role very frustrated at the instructions I was given to relay to my patients and digging deeper for a couple of reasons. One, because I didn't know what was wrong with me, and my whole system was being wrecked by poisons from breast implants. But one of the symptoms that showed up as was my glucose levels were high, and along with my cholesterol levels and all sorts of other things. But it led me to learning a little more about how to help people without using the standard things that I was used to suggesting. And then the next thing that happened was my dad ended up with diabetes, and he was on one of those really, I'll just say it, metformin, which is a really rotten drug. And he had kind of fallen into the whole revolving door of the medical people and maintaining his sugars strictly and all of these things, but no one was talking to him about diet. No one was talking to him about his activity levels, and no one was talking to him about his stress levels. And for myself, I learned that the stress levels and the activity levels were real important. I was in a sedentary job, and I had to learn how important it was to move my body and the cardiovascular and all of that sort of thing. But that's one of the biggest things that helped my dad too. So I was trying to get around to the point. A lot of times I don't share too, because I don't have direct access to a lot of the memories and experiences and information at all times. It's interesting. I'm navigating that. So I can't tell you exactly what we used for my dad to help him, but he ended up losing, like, I don't know, maybe he said 100 pounds. He has abs now. He's off medications, and he's a lot healthier. He had a whole lot of other, they call them comorbidities, like lung disease and things like that. But what I wanted to focus on is that when I was able to help him, it was like one of the first people outside of patients through work, like family members, that I saw a big success in. And so it was memorable for me. And for him, the biggest thing was he was sitting a lot because he had the lung problems, and he just started incorporating. He didn't even leave the house. He would just take a walk around the perimeter of the indoors of the house. Like, that's how inactive he was. So he noticed a big change right away with just adding that little bit of activity. We also had a lot of changes to make in his diet, and I know that most of the people listening have probably already made a lot of changes to their diet, but you know, I had to deal with misconceptions he had about fruit sugars and different things like that. But another thing that helped him was using herbs. And if I remember correctly, we did muscle testing, and what ended up helping him the most was berberis and oregano. And I don't even really have access to more knowledge specifically about what helped him, but a lot of it was about mindset. A lot of it was about what he was consuming outside of food, such as sitting in front of a TV and negativity and things that we already are avoiding, I'm sure. But this all kind of brought up some other things within me, especially with the way the conversation went with including violence and stress and loss of innocence and sorrow and emotional factors, because we know they're all related, and how our body is able to function in homeostasis overall. So one of the, in my particular situation, not only with my glucose levels, but my cholesterol, I was so frustrated because I'm like not eating meat. I'm eating this anti-inflammatory diet, and I couldn't figure out why things were so out of whack. But then I realized there was a strong relation between the nervous system and the endocrine system and how it all functions like together. So eliminating stress has been just really, really important for me, even to the point that for me, someone who apparently has extreme sensitivities and very low tolerance for any type of stress or violence, we'll call it whatever, I just call it like assaults to my system. I delve deeper into that, and there's a book called Power versus Force that goes into, it talks about like muscle testing and how different things affect us. But it opened my eyes to the amount of injury that we're exposing ourselves to by consuming violence just out in the world and on television and things that we're consuming. Because they did so in this book, they did some research, and there's a lot of good information there about how just watching violence on a television can impact your immune system and your nervous system in permanent ways. And for most of us humans, you know, we have the ability to process all those toxins, not just foods, but all of them, the energetic ones. For people like me, I've learned that it's a little bit more difficult. So I tend to show up exaggerated symptoms of things that I would suspect other people might, you know, be able to tolerate. So, yeah, the movement, the herbs, those are the couple of things I thought I might mention to you, Lila. I don't know if you've looked into things, you know, or considered like just see how that feels. The other thing I wanted to mention was I heard you mentioning checking blood sugars, and not that you're doing this, but one thing I observed with my dad, and I've observed with other patients and dealing with people who identify with diabetes or things like that, it almost became like an obsessive compulsive thing where he was checking more frequently even than he was recommended to, because he was on this quest. And I guess that could be beneficial to a point, but it became not beneficial for him. I don't know about lab work or if you're open to that sort of thing, but the hemoglobin A1C measures the 3-month average of blood sugars. And of course, if you're getting very high or very low, you would need to be checking more frequently. I'm sure you know what you need to do, but I just wanted to bring up that point that sometimes in cases like me and apparently my father, we excess our attention to the problem. And when he started kind of getting a sense that he was taking his power back and his mindset is what shifted, that's when I noticed him improving. So yeah, another thing to check, maybe CRP, stress related hormone type things. But yeah, I'm not trying to give advice, but I'm trying to step into more of a useful role because I've been really babying myself lately with the part of my healing that I'm navigating. So it was a treat to be able to just give a little bit of information that I have access to in this moment. And I'm not sure if it's everything everybody already knows or if it's helpful. Hopefully it'll help somebody. So I love you guys and I'm glad you're all here. That's it.
Aw, thanks. Thank you so much for sharing. You know what's funny is that I I have a little joke, which is that I'm resistant to checking my blood, my insulin resistance. So I actually have not even had a way to check my blood sugar, and it's sort of fallen through the cracks because I had refused drugs. So even though I was diagnosed about a year and a half ago, sadly, the things that I've been trying, which I have done those herbs and I've been doing different things. So, but thanks for mentioning that to anybody else who is listening or having this issue. But I could see how people could get super OCD with that. However, for me specifically, I'm probably the opposite of that. I've been kind of burying my head in the sand a little bit about it, which of course my doctors are not, thrilled or impressed with me about. But but I could see how that could be a really big issue, especially with somebody who's super type A and believes in the medical industry and as their god, and just like can get super OCD with that. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that actually. So yeah, thank you. And yeah, to be continued. And again, I appreciate the like health kind of more medical aspects of it. And my point in bringing the conversation to the circle here was really an invitation for us to be delving into that. We all know that these illnesses, not just diabetes, but everything that we have, yes, there is a physical component to it, but the deeper component is the deep implications from, the emotional body. And that's my real interest here. And I guess something I was looking for a little bit of like solidarity, or just like hearing other people's experiences of like, what does it feel like to be kind of heartbroken by this life, just deeply sorrowful. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Beth, and thanks, Lila. All great stuff, and it's just on a. That's why, like I shared a little bit about this, I think last week, just on the topic of health in general, and just how tricky it can be to navigate that space, because we have like our idealistic direction we're going, it can be applied to anything, but just in the food concept, the fact that logically, fruit is the highest form of food. It's the easiest to produce. It's the most sustainable. It's it, it it's what our body's craving with the simple sugars as the fuel to drive it. So on paper, it seems like the perfect thing to move towards. But that's where the challenge of navigating this journey comes in, is each of our bodies is going to be a little bit different in how we get there. How do we get to that space to where I can sustain myself just eating some fruit? And then, that question continues, like, how do we sustain ourselves without even needing that? But of course, that's very advanced and very down the line. So these things that come up, such as like blood sugar levels and things like diabetes and whatnot, like, it does seem to be, it's definitely in the zeitgeist. It's definitely in, as Lila mentioned, I had watched that video by Jillian Berry, because she's going through kind of the same sort of things. And so it's a good video for anyone kind of going through that, because she gives kind of like what she's been adjusting within that. And I also just recently spoke with Tony Jessup, who I've done a few videos with in the past, and she's been kind of going through similar things as well, where it's like the fruit just doesn't seem to be agreeing with her as much. So she's shifted more towards focus on greens, having that having an abundance of the chlorophyll. And that's actually what Dr. Robert Young, in his discussions around alkalinity, would talk about as the best way to alkalize the body are actually in the chlorophyll and the greens. So, and he wouldn't say that the fruit wasn't a good alkalizing option, but just as far as what gives the body the most alkalizing boost, it comes from the greens, he found. So it's interesting to sort of take in all of these things and note where we are. And I think as long as we stay humble and stay open to the direction that we're called, and recognize that while I can take guidance and learn from others, ultimately it has to be me reestablishing my connection with my guide, which is, going to be the same for all of us, but it's going to look a little bit different in every moment, so that you can take those appropriate steps. And if the fruit is not serving you in this moment, it's not good to force yourself into making it work when all the signs are pointing otherwise. It might be time to redirect for some time, and maybe take a step back from that approach. I know Casey, the vegetable police, he's been all raw for quite some time now, and has really found a happy space within his diet, but it's fairly low sugar as well. So he does mainly what do you call it? Buckwheat. Buckwheat is like his main source of fuel, and he'll soak that and then blend that into like a smoothie, which sounds interesting. And he's like, it's not that appealing taste wise, but what he's found is mixing, and you can watch his more recent videos to see what he's doing specifically, but mixing buckwheat with like blueberries and dates and a couple other things, just to give it a slightly sweet taste. But he's pulled back from the massive amounts of sugar and fruit because it just wasn't working with him in that moment. But then you have other people who sustain 100% on fruit and not even that much of it. And like Eli Martyr has done videos about his blood sugar levels even after consuming a large amount of fruit in a single sitting. And his body's at the point to where it's quite stable, even after consuming fruit sugar. So it just goes to show that we're all going to be at different levels of where we are on this journey. And so if I'm beating my head against a wall, trying to make myself be like somebody else in a particular moment, and ignoring the signs and the things where I'm drawn to and what I'm called to, then I am going to suffer. and that's pride keeping me there. Like, oh, I'm just going to keep trying this thing, even though it's not working. So for anyone going through that, it might be, just a good time to sort of reestablish what you're focusing on, or tweak a few things and see if you have any improvements. I do love that Carrie brought up the fasting as such a powerful tool, because I'm quite certain that tool can be used for healing most, if not all, of these issues. However, going on an extended fast is not always in everyone's wheelhouse, or life circumstances might prevent that. So we've got to navigate that space and find the areas where we can. And ultimately, what it's helping us all is to, because we've stepped out as like the pioneers in this space. We've said, I'm not okay with the status quo of how society's conditioned and pushed us all into this box. I want to do something different. And that's that Christed energy coming and inspiring you to step out. So when we embody that Christ and we step out in a new direction, coming back into the one way, well, it's inevitably a lonely path, because that pathway becomes straighter and more narrow as we go. And so having the courage to step out onto it means that you're going to be stepping away from others, and you're going to have to be experimenting as far as what works and how to do this. Because while there are some guides and there are things we can review, ultimately nobody else can do it for you. So to have spaces like this where we can share and compare notes and see what works and what doesn't work, and then we can navigate that space together. But what that's setting us up for as sort of leaders in this next era, as so many others are going to be awakening to this path and wanting to step onto it, we're, as uncomfortable as it might be at times when we go through hiccups, we're actually learning and being more able to share that pathway to others who are going to be stepping out onto that journey as well. So we're sacrificing ourselves to maybe do it before the pathway has been really established, because we're trailblazers, we're way setters. So just wanted to add that as well to the conversation. And I'll pass it over to Tracy because she had raised her hand. So thanks for your patience, and go ahead.
Well, hello everyone. Hey Justin, how's it going, everybody? Good to hear everyone. So I'm just going to touch on just a small thing that actually Lila had said, was when she was watching the father of Elliot introduce sarcasm when he was like so young, and that was like something that was, what you said, the way you witnessed it, it was, I was it made me think of something I'd seen recently. So, and this is just kind of a random thing. Like, I don't have any judgment about the person per se, just bringing it up. And this is what I felt immediately. So when you brought that up, I was like, yeah, this is something that's become, people maybe do it innocently, the act of Gregory doing something innocently, there wasn't like sort of some, any kind of a negative vibration behind it, or trying to be mean spirited. But yet, when a child's mind's so fragile at that age, so what I saw recently was Paris Hilton, actually, just a random clip of her, with her young son. I think he's just like turned 2, and he was eating something. She was holding him close. They're in the kitchen, and he then said the word "fuck." He said it as he was eating, and she started to giggle, but she's looking at him. And then she made a big deal of it. The way she reacted is what I was kind of, not that he said it. It wasn't shocking. So the way she reacted was, she said, "Oh, what did you say?" Oh, and then she encouraged him to keep repeating it. And like I said, he's really a sweet little boy, just turned 2. And I was like, oh, that just felt really off. Like when I witnessed it myself, I was like, oh, like I cringed in a way, like I'm not judging her as a parent, nothing like that. I'm not saying she's a bad mom, nothing. She seems like completely a beautiful mom and doing everything she can to be there. And, in the, whatever, I don't really follow her social media, so I don't know all of it. It's just, this is just a random clip I saw. I don't follow her per se on any platforms. So I don't know the gist of everything. I didn't even know she had 2 kids. She actually has a daughter now. So, I had no idea. So it's all news to me. Anyway, so I saw this. I was like, oh, she kept encouraging him to say it. And then she called over across the table to whoever who was filming. Oh, did you get that? Did you get that? Ha, ha, ha. And she's laughing. And just seemed really just seemed off in a way that I guess, every parent's, deals with things differently and how they want to introduce things into their child, whatever. But I just felt like that in that moment, that's the moment, boom, that innocence of sort of, maybe not the innocence thing so much, comparing it to what Gregory and Elliot were going through. But this, for me, this is where she's now sort of given up a bit of her authority, perhaps, in that way, like her motherly authority, the respect authority kind of a thing at such a young age. And this is just part of social media now, and getting sort of this kind of a clip, a little bit of something to go viral, some little, cute clip that the child says something really inappropriate, but haha, we all laugh kind of a thing. So it just is that kind of a belief system that's just been eroded, and in the way that when you're in child rearing, like I said, I'm not judging her as a parent overall, nothing like that. I think this is just something that was, again, innocently done, if you will, but in that moment could have been done. Maybe not the word better, but yeah, in a little more caring of a way, I think. I don't know, because I guess once the cat's out of the bag, if you will, once they start to swear, or if they're imitating you, if they're imitating the parent, it is on the parent, but still, yeah, it's kind of random to kind of bring up and compare in this conversation, but I just thought that's just, it just shows, I think, the overall sort of lax, when it comes to children, when it comes to these things that seem like, oh, it's just so innocent, it's okay, he's just swearing, but yet it is about their innocence. It really truly is about, and that should be protected at all costs, even if it seems something isn't, oh, it's not going to affect them. All these things do, which we do know that, but yeah. So yeah, random share, but that's mine. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that lack of personality. I hear exactly what you're saying. Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. Thanks for that example. Yeah, it is. It's like we've all been conditioned into this. The system the cabal created is all about harvesting that innocence and taking advantage of it, and so therefore it's a narcissistic society, and it creates that energy can spread, and so it can, we can all embody that energy of taking advantage for whatever reason, even if it's just to mock. Yeah, it's very interesting. Darth, did you want to jump in on what you had to share?
Yeah, this seems to be a good time. Can you guys hear me okay?
It's a little quiet, but yeah, we can hear you.
Give me a second and I'll switch my audio. I'll be right back.
All right. While we wait for him, I don't know how long. Catherine, did you want to go ahead?
Yes, I just want to thank everybody for being here today, and I'm going to have to jump off as soon as I share my little part. And I just want to talk about the food again. I'd like to touch that and about pride, because once I found out that we ultimately should be just eating fruit, I jumped on that bandwagon. And after a period of time, of course, I had issues because I did it so fast with teeth and hair, and still recovering from some of that. So in the process, I realized, I was demineralizing my body, and how important it is for us to actually listen to what our bodies are telling us. And one thing that really hit me strong was I was craving molasses, and I never eat molasses. Come to find out that magnesium is in molasses. So it was just a learning experience for me, and, taking steps to really listen to my body. And we're all on this journey together. And sometimes it's very difficult, but we come through it, and we have each other to support each other. So, I'm just encouraged and just thankful that we have this space to speak about these things, and a big thank you to everybody. And just getting back to the pride thing, because I wanted to go down that path, but I was not listening to my true self. And so I had to step away and reassess that. So thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's it's really powerful to go through that process. Like, even if we intellectually we feel like we're going the right way, if all the signs are pointing otherwise, and we just stay with the intellect of what we think is the right way, then we're sort of negating where the divine is leading us. And so you answer that call, and you felt the pull towards molasses, which that's a great thing to bring up. I've kind of forgotten to mention this. That's another very rich mineral source. So it's molasses, for those who don't know, is the byproduct of the sugar industry. And that's actually all the good stuff from the sugarcane juice that they process into refined sugar. They take all the minerals and excess stuff as the molasses out of it. So molasses is just a very concentrated form of minerals as a byproduct of the sugar. So that's something that another guy that I follow, he goes by Fasting with Trevor on social media. Great information. He does a lot on dry fasting, which I will just throw a word of caution out there that dry fasting is something that somebody needs to be extremely prepared for. I do think it's a very effective and helpful form of fasting, but it's not something to be taken lightly. You can hurt yourself if you don't do it correctly. So he teaches all about that. And one of the big things he talks about is getting adequate minerals. And one ways that he likes to boost it is with blackstrap molasses. So I've been experimenting with that, and I didn't have any major ailments, so I haven't noticed anything crazy differently, but I have just been putting just a little bit in my smoothies. So whenever I make a smoothie, I add some molasses to it because it's already kind of sweet. It's got a distinct flavor, so you don't want to add too much to it, but it complements sweetness anyway. So yeah, just a suggestion out there. If anyone wants a inexpensive form of magnesium and other minerals, that's in a natural form, you can just look at molasses. So thank you, Catherine, for bringing that up and for that suggestion. And I think Darth's back with another mic. So go ahead, brother.
Yes, I switched to my phone. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, pretty much so.
Okay. So sarcasm comes from the Greek language, from the Greek word sarcasm, and it means to literally tear flesh like a dog, with a side meaning of to bite the lip in rage or to sneer. So the Oxford English Dictionary says sarcasm is the caustic use of words, often in a humorous way, to mock someone or something. It may employ ambivalence, and it might not necessarily be ironic. However, you can tell by the inflection in which it's spoken. It can have an undercurrent of irony and often is marked by an extreme disproportion of the comment of the situation. And you can tell by the context. So the main word there is caustic. And caustic means to burn or corrode. The first time sarcasm was used in the English language was in 1579 by Edmund Spenser in his book Shepherd's Calendar. Now, the Oxford English Dictionary says that sarcasm is often used harshly, often crudely, and with contempt for destructive purposes. So you're saying one thing, but you actually mean the opposite. So you say something like, what a fine musician you are. Well, you actually mean that you're not any good. Or, hey, you're a whole different person now. Well, you mean you're actually the same person. So you're saying one thing, but you're meaning the opposite thing. So sarcasm is actually hostility disguised as humor, which is why when someone is sarcastic, generally the person doesn't feel good as a harming effect. So there's some problems with sarcasm because sarcasm is a lie. It's a deception. You're saying one thing, but you're meaning another. It fosters insecurity. It interferes with authentic communication. It discourages inquisitiveness and honesty. It interferes with and denies goodness. So someone will try to do something good, and then the second person being sarcastic denies the goodness. It also undermines good leadership. Sarcasm consumes true humor. So you have people that are actually funny, and then the sarcastic person tends to like consume their humor or consume the attention that would normally be diverted toward true humor. Sarcasm is the language of bullies and narcissists. Sarcasm is also actually cowardice because it's hostility, but it's disguised as humor. So it's a passive aggressive form of attacking. So it's actually the tool of a coward. And the other problem with sarcasm is because sarcasm is a lie, so it's dishonest. It tends to be dark in nature. So people that use sarcasm often, it can be habit forming and can actually form a demonic possession, and it can spread and infect others. Sarcasm has actually consumed whole communities, even nations. And it's the favorite tool of demonic narcissists to inflict deep, sustaining narcissistic injuries that can actually manifest physically. So if you use sarcasm on someone long enough, you can actually physically injure them. So since thoughts and words determine feelings, a person who's consistently sarcastic can end up with a hostile outtake, and they can end up insecure. But if someone is having problems with self-esteem, they're having problems with depression, if they cut the sarcasm out of their speech, it can actually improve their mood. So psychologytoday.com says that if you want to be happier and improve your relationships, cut out sarcasm, because sarcasm is hostility described as humor. And then the National Institute of Health.gov, NIH, they say that during COVID, people who were sarcastic, they didn't cope very well, and they ended up more depressed and with more anxiety, physical symptoms. And then the biggest quote about sarcasm was made by Oscar Wilde. And it was actually, his quote is about sarcasm, but it's actually sarcastic itself, which is really funny. He says, sarcasm is the lowest form of wit, but it's the highest form of intelligence, which it can't be both. It can't be the lowest form of wit and then the highest form of wit. So the second part is the sarcastic comment where he says it's the highest form of intelligence, which is very funny. In the ancient cultures, sarcasm, they understood what it was and they had different words for it, but it was considered unholy and unchristic speech. So someone that was consistently sarcastic in the community, they could actually be driven out because it was considered disgraceful speech contrary to the divine. And that's all I got on sarcasm.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's fascinating to, just to kind of break it down in that way. And I mean, I guess if we're going to classify sarcasm as only when its intent is to cause harm, to be caustic, to be corroding, then yeah, I'd very much agree with that. But then you also mentioned like the sarcasm that the guy listed in that description as sort of like a funny take on that. So what would you call it something different if sarcasm is used in a jovial, lightning kind of way, or to perhaps mock something that is dark and wicked and evil?
No, sarcasm, for example, sarcasm is in the Bible where the prophet Elijah is having he was having a test between the prophets of Baal and the prophets of Yahweh. So the prophets of Baal, they set up an altar, and it was a test whose God is real. And all day they're trying to get their God to manifest into the construct. They have the altar set up, and they have the sacrifice on the altar. And Baal is supposed to come down and burn the sacrifice, and he just never did. So Elijah, or maybe it was Elijah, I think it was Elijah. Elijah is laughing at them, and he's dancing around their altar as they're struggling. And it was a life or death situation. And he's saying, maybe your God is in the bathroom. Maybe you need to cry louder. So these are not honest statements, because their God is not actually in the bathroom, and it doesn't matter if they cry louder. So he's technically actually really being sarcastic, but he was a good person. But he actually ended up putting all those false prophets to death, because when Baal did not accept the sacrifice because he's a false god and not real, and then Yahweh did accept the sacrifice, the prophet of the true God ordered the prophets of Baal to be put to death. So he was being sarcastic toward them with the intention of mocking them, with the intention of harming them. And then a few minutes later, he actually did put them to death and burn them on their own altar. So sarcasm is a hostile action. Not that good people don't do it. I mean, there are times when good people do have to engage in forceful action and forceful speech. But sarcasm, in the word literally means to tear flesh like a dog. It's a hostile action described as humor, but a good person wouldn't habitually use sarcasm the same way that a habitual person wouldn't habitually engage in physical violence. Not that they wouldn't under certain conditions, but they prefer not to. It's not their nature.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, it's interesting to consider, and just how humor has kind of evolved, and it relates to the initial topic that Lila brought up of just kind of like our aversion to sweetness and sort of the ways that we've had to cope with just like the fucking trauma that has been existing here for so long. So while sarcasm can certainly be used in that caustic, harmful kind of way, it's also evolved from it's a type of humor, and maybe we'd call this something different, but to have that sort of humorous way of seeing the darker elements, which in my eyes takes away from the darkness power. Comedy is when we laugh. Like everything about what darkness aims to do is broken when there's laughter, because laughter brings in humility. Laughter brings in a lightness to it that takes away the sort of edge of those dark aims. So humor is a very powerful tool, But yeah, I could see how sarcasm, using this sort of deception, because it's a lie at the end of the day, and if our words are not congruent with our actions or what we believe, then there's going to be a disconnect within us. So to exercise caution with humor in that form and make sure that it's not, not making the problem worse. But if we're bringing laughter into the situation, not at the expense of anyone, then I feel like that's alleviating the issue. So yeah, it's an interesting thing to examine for sure.
It's like since it's labeled as caustic speech or acidic or burning speech, it's like acid. A good person will use acid. They're just very cautious with it, and we'd rather consume alkaline things because alkaline leads to good health, and acid tends to not. Not that we don't use acid. I mean, we use vinegar and that sort of thing, but we're just careful with it. It's like a fire. It has to serve goodness, and if we're not careful, the fire can burn your house down.
Yeah, great comparison there. Thanks for that. Yeah, does anyone else have anything that... Well, go ahead.
Vinegar in this. I've been attending this new church, which is very like stripped down, really amazing, very Bible based, and we've been working with the book of Titus for, I don't know, the last 2 months or something. And the guy, I'll post it actually because they record the sermons, but the sermon this last week was just ingenious. I love the guy. And he actually quoted, I think it was a Scottish, I don't know if he was a pastor or what he was, but he said, he was speaking of, the hardening of the heart and the vinegar of righteousness. And this, well, for me, it just spoke straight to my heart because there's, a land I've been living in the last few years around for myself and the people that I look up to in different realms, but especially here in this realm. This relationship between righteousness and rightful righteousness, and then also the way that hardens the heart, and how to, yes, be as Jesus was and turn the tables and be honest and so on and so forth, and speak up around, like, for instance, what's going on in the country, abortion, or the LGBTQ movement, etc., because that it's not righteous. But then at the same time, how you can exist in that righteousness, and it is a vinegar to the heart, and then how that translates and how you treat people, and it's a real struggle for me right now around how to lead and serve. And then also, when I see something that isn't right, of course, as a cross of shock in human design, I'm naturally kind of meant to bring that into the limelight, and sort of can be shocking, and it's a real challenge. And so yeah, that I loved what you said, Darth, around the vinegar, that for instance, I just loaded my dishwasher, and I run my dishwasher with vinegar and baking soda, and it works perfect. Thank you, Justin and Joanna. Shout out to you guys. Like, here we've been paying for these products, and wow, everybody who doesn't know this, just put fill the little cup up with a little bit of vinegar, and use about a tablespoon and a half of baking soda. Just throw it right in the bottom, and your dishes will be perfect, right? So there's a real beauty in the vinegar, in a way, and it's a naturally existing compound that is very helpful for different things. And at the same time, it can be so caustic and burn the relationships, burn the your true nature of wanting to be helpful and wanting to be loving and being as Jesus was, with such a beautiful heart, who didn't turn anyone away. but then also, having these, fulfilling these righteous laws of God. So anyways, just wanted to throw that in. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, as the walking this middle path, this Christed path, there are going to be elements on either end of the spectrum that come into play. And as the steward, given this high task of walking as a manifested form of the Creator, we're here to pull all from these elements in the appropriate time and the appropriate ways. So wherever we are, if we need to have the more caustic vinegar, then we bring that in. If we need to have the more alkaline baking soda, then we bring that element in. And whatever we're doing in whatever task we're taking, that's the recipe, and we're here to make the most delicious dish, to bring everything together in the ways where everything complements each other. And so if you have too much vinegar, it's going to taste like shit. If you have too much salt, alkalinity, it's going to taste like shit. And the purpose is to find balance. And of course, we do eventually move away from the preparations in the food, so that analogy eventually has less meaning. But you get what I'm saying, and that we're here to act as the balance point, and to recognize where am I imbalanced in one direction or in the other, and therefore I need to bring those elements in, so they're all appropriate. Nothing is to be negated or thrown away. It's all just has to wait for its appropriate time and situation. So yeah, great example. Thanks for bringing that up. And yeah, I saw Sarah M. Hey sister, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just called to share a little bit about many years ago. I was teaching full-time in a middle school. That's what we call them here. I don't know if you call it there, but it's the grades, probably it was it 6, 7, and 8? Yeah, grades 6, 7, and 8. And I was new to the school, and it was palpable for me just actually walking into the school and feeling the energy in this particular school. The administrator and the teachers had basically all become sarcastic experts. Like their language was the language of sarcasm. And it was their way. They felt they had to survive and be a mentor to children of that very, very vulnerable and influential age of 12, 13, 14. Anyway, it killed my spirit being in that school. Like I was just in absolute shock at what people felt was necessary to how to guide young people. Like it can bring me to tears right now, honestly. I actually was reminded the other day about something that happened like partway through the year. I was I was coming into the parking lot of the school, and it was all sheer ice, and my car went out of control, sliding into another teacher's vehicle. And it really caught me in my tracks, as far as I did not enjoy being there. It was so hard on my spirit. And I did my best with kids, and I had a dance class, like an extracurricular thing that I did with kids, and they loved it. And I did my best, but honestly, I could not be there. And yeah, I'm just called to share this because it is such a violation to the spirit and the innocence of children to operate in that manner. Like it was so corrupt and so horrible. I could not even continue to work at that school. At that time, I had a doctor who lived way out in the country, and I went to see her, and I explained to her what it was like going to teach in the school and be present with these children. And I told her what it was like even driving past the school. And she instructed me. Like she just basically said, do not go back. I had to remove myself from that environment. It was killing me, and I can't even imagine what it was doing to the kids. Like, anyway, I've just come in on this conversation because I was away, and then I walked into my house and turned this on and just entered in at the point where Darth was explaining about sarcasm. So I don't know really where it all began. I'm going to go back and listen to the beginning, but I'm just really called to share that. Like, what a freaking violation is going on in a lot of supposed learning environments where coaches and teachers think this is what you do. This is how you be a mentor for beautiful, innocent beings of this earth. And anyway, it brings me to tears what I witnessed. And I know, like right now, I would be far stronger and more of a, just more capable to speak out against that. Like I just had to remove myself at that point in time in my life. That would be like actually 30 years ago. So thank you for hearing me. I was really called to speak up, and yeah, this is going to be rooted out. There is a place for that, but let us protect the innocence of children. Let us protect their sweet, sweet, beautiful, pure hearts. Let us be protectors. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sarah. Yeah, it is so important. I mean, if we are not recognizing that role as being the protector of that purity and the innocence, then what are we doing? You know, that's like our highest assignment is to help those who need that kind of protection. And it's been such a diligent breakdown of that primary role, because that's the number one aim of the cabal, of those who seek to control. It's to take away that protection, to degrade the family, so to emasculate the men, to rape and destroy the women, and then leave nothing to protect the child so that it can be easily harvested. So that's been the main goal. So to reestablish that, we have to be seeing and calling out these instances whenever they pop up. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow when we collectively realize just what we've done through our negligence. It's quite something. So thank you, Sarah, for bringing that up. And yeah, I'll pass it back and see if anybody else wants to jump in.
Sarcasm, when it's done with an evil intent and with the narcissism behind it, it's actually part of the louche process, because you have an innocent and beautiful, pure spirit presenting something good, and then the sarcastic, narcissistic person will deny the goodness, and the energy transfers from the innocent person to the not innocent person. It's a forceful taking of energy, taking of humor and of goodness, and the person that was originally in a high energy state and happy and expressing some goodness, their energy is brought down. So it's an intentional tool that is used, and it's something that we have to be mindful of how we're using it.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, anybody else want to jump in? Any topic, either whether what we've discussed or take us any direction? More than welcome to. All right. Well, I've got a some offline submitted things to go over. So just wanted to mention, oh yeah, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. So Darina had reached out to me and she'd asked if I'd mention this on a show to let people know that she's in West Devon, UK, and she's got 3 acres of land, and that needs a lot of TLC, she says. And so she wanted to put it out into the community. If anyone is in the UK and is looking for, an opportunity to help work on some land, and especially if you have like a camper or a place where you can set up, she said people are welcome to come by and to stay, check out the place and whatever else. But she was just looking to see if she could get any connections in the UK. She's an absolutely wonderful, wonderful, wonderful soul. So if you do want to reach out to her, if you are in the UK or just interested in connecting with her, she said anyone can message her on Telegram. Her username is @Sovereign Darina. So that's @SOVEREIGN and then DARINA. So Sovereign Darina. And that's how you can search for her. So if you just type in that username into the search field, especially if you put an @ symbol on there, she should pop up and you should be able to message her directly if you're interested in that. So thank you for putting that out there, sister. And yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea. If anyone has situations like that where you're looking to either have help on land that you have or just like living situations and things of that nature, I think it's great to network within the community, and so that we can start having more like-minded people come together. We don't always have to be doing everything alone. So any way that we can help each other out is a great thing to, create more win-win scenarios for everybody. So don't hesitate to reach out if I can help communicate that in any way. So just wanted to mention that. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah. And just even mentioning these things, like for me, I know how capable we all are as well for call it energizing something. So I've just heard that it excites me, it lights up something in my heart, and I whether it's I who goes there or know somebody who mention it to somebody who might go there, but I just feel that we undermine a lot our capability of this holding space for, and whether you call it prayer or however you call it, but yeah, like never to doubt the power of just right now, this good spell we're casting for this. It's like somebody is putting out an invitation and there's an offering there, and that we can help create the match for that. It is very, very real. And it's inspiring to me to just speak up more around these things, because I feel like I've been just called to be so silent about so many things, like so protective, partly because this does feel like a harsh world and so unsafe to mention what we dream to create. So thank you.
Yeah, beautifully said. It's thank you for saying that. Lila, did you want to jump into?
Yeah, on those lines, I just wanted to mention that I, with my siblings, own 40 acres of land up in remote Alaska. So if anybody feels moved, there's actually no one even living on the land right now. Please contact me directly. And then also with what's going on here in south of LA, we do have this lovely home that's offered a lot of respite to different people over the last 2 years. And while I'm preparing to leave and come out to the East Coast, if there's anyone who's interested in landing here, even if you're just traveling through, or if you would like to rent a room, we have 2 rooms that are available now. And right now I'm going to be trying to keep the house and sublet it just for a variety of reasons. But so yeah, I just wanted to mention that as far as yeah, just this way that we can start to focus more on keeping this kind of in this group of people and alignment. And, I actually have a feeling that there's a lot that we haven't really explored along these lines of, hey, I have, not even land for someone to come help with, like this beautiful land offered in the UK, but, just property, or, hey, I'm traveling for a month and if someone needs to sublet or whatever. So, making it more of like a personal community endeavor, I think is really wise right now. And sometimes we forget, I think, because we're all living our own lives and we're all so scattered, around the earth right now, that it's like we're used to the online presence and the online community, but then that doesn't quite translate over to like real life living. But who knows, maybe there's somebody who's listening to this from the JC family who is in my area or is in the UK area or it wants to go to Alaska. So let's be sharing it more, looking at it as like a online community bulletin board or something. Thank you.
Yeah, agreed completely. Yeah, it's a great opportunity just to connect on those kind of things. So yeah, thanks for listening there, and yeah, again, let me know if I can help communicating that in any way. If anyone else has any ideas. So another, I'll just give an opportunity. Does anybody else want to jump in either on that topic or anything, or take us in a new direction? All right. Well, here's another offline question. Oh, go ahead, Carrie.
Well, I feel like I went a little bit I don't know. I feel like I went a little bit deep, and I have this like a feeling which feels good, but I feel like I don't know who I am anymore. This very strange feeling, like I know my actions, they're good. I know my intentions, they're good. I am speaking, you know, speaking with with father, and but I have this weird feeling that I don't know who I am anymore. It's and I wonder, like, what did I do wrong now? Like, what have I done wrong? And then the answer is like nothing. It's just I just want to know. I don't even want to know more. You know, I just don't even. But I have all the time, and because in real life I have a burnout, so which is kind of strange for 16 years. So that's why I'm just expressing. I have this strange feeling like that I don't even know who I am anymore. But I do know. But it's a very deep feeling. It's not a bad feeling. That's what I'm saying. Just wanted to express myself. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, it's powerful to. That's why the death and resurrection is such a potent symbol. The phoenix rising from the ashes. All of these allegories to represent this process of dying to what was, so that we can be born again to what is. And so that's sort of the whatever, maybe unfortunate, but just a part of this process. When we immerse ourselves into this experience, we take on the ego, which is necessary to give us an individualized experience, so that we could step away and see creation from a different vantage point. So I could take God's perspective and step it down into a different view. The ego is necessary to have that. And then the sort of byproduct of having that individualized experience is we begin to grow attached to the identity that the ego creates. We identify, we become attached to the character that we've built and the labels that and of course society is built on this way, and so it's all about labels and status, and everything's all about titles, and you've got to have this, even the name that we've been given as our birth bond, when we're signed away as property into the maritime admiralty law system. This name is an identity, it's a corporation. And so continuously society is getting us to identify with the status and the name and all of that. And we buy into it as well, because we grow attached to our status, like our reputation, all of these things. And so as we step into an awakening and come back to the realization that, oh wow, I am, I'm not this name, I'm not this identity, I'm not this character, I'm not this job, I'm not this story, but I am, I am the observer, the observation point that I cannot see. So it's like, when we do that, it is an ego death every time, and it can be uncomfortable, especially the first few times that we do it, because we haven't known any other way. And the ego is like, it's desperate to keep you from this realization, because then it loses its power, it loses its control, and it feels like it's unsafe, because from the ego's perspective, change is unsafe. Yet on the deepest level of us, we are all about that change. So it's a great it's a great thing to recognize that feeling, and then every iteration it happens, we grow more comfortable with that. And the more comfortable we can grow with the uncomfortable in that evolutionary process, then it just becomes an exciting transformational ride. But it can be intense. So thanks for sharing. And you're in a good space to go over stuff like that. It's nice to be with other people who experience the same, and have the ability to reach out a hand and help someone else who might need a grounding perspective, or might need just a way to bring us back down into earth and to root. You mentioned connecting with the Father, which is growing it's like we're a tree. So we're growing our limbs and reaching our leaves out high to reach the Father. But we also must remember that in order for a tree to be stable, it has to grow deep into the ground. So we also have to grow deep and grounded and connect to our mother, the physical. So it's both reaching high to the heavens and grounding deep into the earth to have this unionized perspective, to be walking in that middle path, in that middle way. So thanks again for sharing. And I saw Lila. Did you want to share something on that? Maybe that might have been an accident.
Hey, no, I just wanted to just give a little shout out to our new confirmed FBI leader. Kash Patel is just sworn in, and I have the biggest crush on him, probably, as many of us do. So I felt like I didn't want it to, excuse me, I didn't want it to pass without being named. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. It is it's exciting to see these big changes happen, and just the level of fear of the establishment has for these kind of characters to be put into place, because it means all of the darkness is being exposed. So great stuff there. I'll just pass it back and see if anybody else wants to jump in, share anything, take us any direction. Oh, I actually see Rowan. Hey, brother, go ahead.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, just somehow didn't press the button in time there. But just adding to our excellent conversation we've had so far about this whole thing, I had this written down, pardon me, 1 second. Here it is, yeah. So we were discussing connecting and helping build other communities that either already exist or possibly even starting your own. When, like maybe we're thinking of doing permaculture farms in tropical environments, or greenhouses in places that are supposed to not be able to grow anything, because we have technologies to do so, depending on one's experience. But I found it very interesting what you mentioned just along the lines of growing attached to title and reputation. And what my experience, and I'm sure many of ours has been, is that this seems to grow the more that we try to get away from it. And that's all this research that I've been doing is like all these different communities, with whether it's permaculture farms or land shares or things like that in many different countries like Canada, United States, Mexico, etc. And it's just so funny how like the more that we try to get away from controlling anything and identifying with the birth certificate that we were basically just kind of slapped onto our foreheads with when we were basically sold into this Admiralty Maritime Law system is, yeah, it's like I'm just trying to connect the dots. I think many of us are when it comes to actually acquiring ownership of land. And I'm sure many of us know what alloidal titles are. However, from research that I've done, at least from certain states in Texas and Ohio and Nevada, is that you pay basically like, I could be wrong, it sounds nuts though, is that you pay basically 60 years of taxes up front, and the uh, remaining amount is based on your life expectancy. Like there's all these hilarious and stupid stipulations that they got to have different versions of different countries of this alloidal title process. And it seems that no matter how you try to go about it, the more that you learn about your name and finding out all the numbers and what they mean on that birth certificate and what accounts they are connected to when you add a zero in front of the beginning, first numeral or the last. And some people are finding out they have like 6 bank accounts with the Bank of America, where that's where all the millions of dollars is kept, based on that information and claiming it and taking down the straw man, like all the processes you can do and even be successful with. And it seems that even if you do that, you're still going to run into all of these attempts to control you, even though you're doing your absolute best to take control back, not really in the intellectual sense, but more in the spiritual strength sense, where another conversation a few chats ago, I think it was Darth talking about how you can't defeat these entities with intelligence. Like it was a certain conversation about court cases and stuff, I think is what it was. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'm trying not to be too wordy with it and confuse everyone, because the whole subject itself is confusing. Because I want to help, I want to contribute to the right thing. And it just seems that the more we try to do things on our own, or even as a group, it just depends on how we go about it. Like, how can we successfully accomplish this and build this kingdom of God and then connect with other communities and help them do it? You know what I mean? So I'll just leave it at that and see what you have to say, and anyone else who has something to chuck into the subject is much appreciated. Thanks.
I can actually quickly comment something. I have this strange feeling and that everyone is trying to reach out to me, like in internet and in the city where I live, and like I think there's a need to create like it feels like a startup that I'm like bombarded with these suggestions that like either we do startup or you go somewhere and you know go be brave and take the hardest path, like the go within the entire system, because I really cannot speak more about that, but yeah, I'm just literally I'm looking to no answer between two things, and it's driving me nuts. Sorry.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I mean, to Ron's question in regards to land acquisition and the all the hoops that you have to jump through in order to actually buy land, and even if you do that, is it even yours? And it's like the system was designed to keep us away from this as much as possible, and from always just having these temporary this appearance of control and appearance of owning anything, but it's all fake. So in regards to jumping through the hoops now to acquire something like that, it's not something I have a lot of experience with, nor do I have much desire to kind of go through it that way, because while if there was no hope that we were shifting, then there would be more reason to dig through stuff like that. But now it seems like that's, at least to me, it seems like it's a big time sink to learn about all these nuances. And as we talked about the other week, just approaching these things intellectually, it's almost, it's designed to be nearly impossible, and you have to get it 100% right, every little layer of it. And if you don't, then you're just painting a target on your back that you're trying to buck the system. And it's gonna, So I don't have a whole lot to add to that one in particular, other than personally, I don't feel called to pursue a route like that because everything is shifting. So I don't feel like it's worth spending a lot of time and effort in the old system when the old system is crumbling. So that's just my perspective there.
Wow, that was unusual.
And I have to agree because, sorry, Gary, I was just going to quickly comment. Yeah, it's like none of this makes sense. It's just all pure insanity. And Justin, you're right. Like, it's just a huge time sink. And it's, whatever this new system is really going to be like, that's where great power comes great responsibility, and patience is a great power. And patience does require a certain level of responsibility. So, go ahead, Carrie. Didn't mean to interrupt you there for too long.
Well, basically, it's like this. I'm on I work internationally. I'm I'm from Finland, and I'm a white guy. I love Europe, okay, because I lived here all my life, and I really, 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 really do love Europe, and it's difficult for me to know what is happening in Paris, because I really loved being there, and it's just so. I would like to see some changes there, and at the same time, I'm getting these opportunities, and it's the because I work international and I worked for a long time. However, I have a burnout for 16 years, and I have become like this. That I'm very saturated of life. I have experienced a lot of life, the good and the bad, and I learned so much, and I realized that I have very little desire left, and that then I got depressed, and now I'm not depressed, and now I have been healing my body, and now lots of things are good, like self-love, self-respect. Many people love to see me, outside, and they literally just want to talk to me, and like for hours and hours and hours, and they don't even want to talk. They just want to listen to me, and I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, I'm having a good time, let's have a drink and let's have a good time. Let's be responsible. However, let's not get drunk, but drink responsibly. And and there's a lot of intellectual people here, and it's a beautiful city, but it's not Paris. I don't know. I just would like to go visit. I know. And what I'm trying to say is that I talked to Father, and he told me what to do, and I was like, why do you want to? Like, how can I stay on this path? Like how? Because it's like going back to the old ways, It's like seeing all the sin again. Like just be surrounded by sinners. It's like, why would I need to do that? I just got out of it. It's like, yeah, because who else is gonna do it? Like, I'm the computer guy, and I'm like figuring things out. And I guess I just have to trust Father and just, because I want to fulfill his will, because I trust that he wants us to be sovereign and free, and I don't want to serve any god that wants to enslave us. No, that doesn't make any sense, because if we are righteous and sovereign, then we know not to bother anyone or hurt anyone. I haven't hurt a single person in my life with my fist. I haven't shed a drop of blood my entire life. I don't understand why people do that. I don't have it in me. I don't have this kind of problem. I can get blackouts, and I still don't do it. So I just really, that's why I feel like I'm not really, that's why I know I'm not from this place, of course. That's why I was looking for exit, like I was looking, is there physically, can I take a ship and leave? Can I get a big ship and leave? It's like, I don't know, maybe. And then I found out even that's possible. I was like, okay, well, I could do that. Or then I could go just inside the spider. It's like, okay, I can actually know how to do both. I know like where to do it. And like, fine. So anyways, I should be able to trust God, the righteous God, the one and only Heavenly Father, because He speaks to me directly. I don't need to meditate. I just cross my fingers and look into the sky, and we have a dialogue. I have a dialogue with Father, and sometimes I wonder if it's the Father that I'm speaking with. That's basically the point. That's my concern. What if somebody else is talking to me? What if it's that is my question. Thank you.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks for sharing. And it is like we're going through the time of prophecy. We're going through Revelation right now, where all that is wicked is being exposed, and that exists inside all of us as well. So this darkness and this discomfort, and so we're unable to, as we're sort of stepping into or accepting the invitation of the divine to elevate ourselves, all that is from the old ways is, and I shouldn't even really say old ways, these aren't old ways, but just have been consistent for the past however many years, we become disgusted with how it is, and we can't operate in that way any longer because energetically it just doesn't fit. We're moving out of that time period. We're moving out of that chapter of the story, and we're stepping into who we truly are. yeah, it's certainly challenging to, especially when we have friends and family and people who are not willing to step on that, then it becomes a pretty lonely path. And that's by design, because this path is there to refine those who can truly step into their fullest power. And with great power comes great responsibility. So we have to earn the power. We have to earn the responsibility of stepping into this. And that means that we can't be reliant on society. We can't be reliant on our friends and family the way that we've been conditioned, where everything is based on something in the external. I've got to worship this job or this money or this status or my friends or family, whatever. All of those are false idols that have to be brought down, so that we come back to, as you said, that singular soul connection with God, and there's no middleman. There's no one in between. But you asked the question, how do we distinguish? How do we know if what we are communicating with is the righteous, good God, or if it's another layer of deception? And that's why they call Satan the deceiver, because that energy is always, it has to rely on deceptive techniques in order to trick us into believing it. And so that comes in the form of our ego, or this voice that can pop into our head, and it can sound righteous and good. It can sound like it's bringing us in the right direction, and we can be confused in thinking our ego is the divine, is God. But that's where it gets tricky. And the best way to do it, there's no like blueprint that establishes, well, okay, when is this a deceptive energy and when is this a higher calling? That's for each and every one of us to refine our own internal discernment, and to go through these trials and tribulations to determine, like, are we in that space of surrender, letting go and letting God in, or are we still in ego or edging God out? Are we still in that space where I want to be in control and I want to make it happen my way? And if we're in that space, then the ego is going to disguise itself. It can disguise itself as if it is God, and then we say, okay, well, God told me to do this. But oftentimes it's just the ego. So I'm not saying that in your case at all, but I'm just adding a sort of the challenge in this, and that's why humility, I often say, is key. If we're humble, then if we miss the mark, we can easily redirect. We don't continue barreling down the wrong path with this prideful way. If we're humble, then we're always open, and the divine is going to give us opportunity to shift. And it starts with very subtle invitations. They're like, hey, you're going the wrong direction. And if we're humble, we catch those subtle shifts and we're able to redirect quickly. But if we're in pride, then we're like, no, I'm going to ignore all of these shifts. I'm going to ignore all these nudges and nods. I'm going to ignore all these things that other people are saying, because God communicates to us through infinite number of ways, sometimes through other people, sometimes through signs, symbols, phrases, colors, feelings. However, and so if we're stuck in this idea that I'm always right and I can do no wrong, and my ego I don't have a problem with it any longer, well, that means we're stuck in pride, and we're kind of paving our own way intellectually instead of coming back to that heart-centered space, which is very humble, very grounded. So there's not an answer to that question in all moments, but just the more that we refine ourselves, the more that we cleanse our vessel, this temple, so that we can be an effective communicator with the divine. We're like a radio antenna, and we have to tune our device to receive that divine frequency. But just like any radio, it can pick up on other frequencies as well. So if we're full of mucus and junk and processed foods, and we're not going to be able to pick up on that clear signal. We're going to be all garbled and picking up on all sorts of other stuff. If our mind is full of thoughts and we're constantly judging other people, or we're just wandering in our head continuously, there's no silence or peace. Again, it's going to be very difficult to pick up on that signal. So that's where it becomes the practice comes. And I did a written post on this the other day about that surrender, stepping back into that peace and that stillness, and recognizing that that's you. You are in that space. You are that space. You are that which cannot be observed. So to come back, step away from all the noise, all the churning, all the attachments, the identities, the things, the stuff that we burden ourselves with, let go of all that, even if just for a moment, and come back to that peace, come back to that stillness, surrender to that, come back to that trust. And then from that place, that's building my house on that solid foundation, as Jesus talked about, building on the solid rock. When I come back and I'm building my experience from that peace, I have a solid footing. So even if that practice, even if I'm new at it and that foundation is very small, I don't have a lot to work with, I still have a solid footing to go from. And so then I can step out into the experience, into the swirl, into the storm, into the dance, into the music, and not get lost and carried away with it. I can bring that peace in with me. And this is extremely challenging to do. It's very hard to maintain that peaceful state amidst the seeming chaos of the experience. But that's the Christed path. That's the way, is to refine that and find more effective methods and strategies and ways to refine that connection so that I can bring that peace into every single moment. And through that process, we continually work and step away from the temptations or the ways that the ego can step in and deceive us. Eventually, it has no power to do that. Well, it will always have power to do that, but we become better at it. And as long as we stay humble, we grow, and we lose that ability for the ego to take over. But never to fall into complacency, right? Never to fall into the lack of readiness. Our warrior, our tools always have to be sharpened. Our weapons always have to be sharpened. Our warrior always ready. Not to use in a form of violence, but to be used to protect that innocence, as we've talked about at the beginning, to protect that desire for the ego, the desire for that demiurge energy to come in and take us off that path. And so if we're always ready for that, and if we're humble enough to acknowledge when we have fallen off, missed the mark, then we're setting ourselves up for success. And that's ultimately the name of the game. That's what we're here to do. We're here to remember that and to step into that and to sort of oscillate between these two states of peace and chaos, seeming chaos, but it's the excitement. So if we can find that balance in that middle point between these two, and we can walk in both realms, just as I mentioned, the tree lives in both realms. If we can walk in both realms, then we're able to bring that peace and that connection from the center into all things in the experience and the appearance of separation. And then the two become one. And that's it. So yeah, I'll just leave that one there. And we don't have a ton of time left, but I wanted to pass it off and see if anybody wants to kind of give any closing comments before we start wrapping up today. Yeah, go ahead, Darth.
So if I can backtrack the conversation a little bit, someone mentioned about ownership of property, specifically land property, and how to register to actually get ownership of the land. And I did go down that rabbit hole. And one of the things that I learned is that the idea of registering property and registering ownership of land is one of the foundational concepts for there to even be a cabal, because whoever you are registering the ownership of the land, whoever's compiling that list ends up being the person that actually owns the land. Because if you have, let's say we're going to make Justin. Justin will be the guy that dictates who owns the land. And everyone has to tell Justin that, oh, I own this land over here by the lake in Guilford, and I'm telling Justin, and that's how I know. And Justin's the one that can confirm, yes, Darth owns so many acres of land by this lake. Well, how do you enforce it? And who's going to pay to maintain the list? And who's going to pay to make sure, like, what if someone else says, no, Darth doesn't own that house on that land by that lake? And then he's going to go to Justin and who's going to come and force me off that land? So the very idea of making lists of ownership of property is one of the foundational concepts of the cabal, and that's how you start to accumulate power. And so this has been a problem that many people have tried to start registries, and many people have tried to, backtrack and who owns the original land and who owns the original, where is the original list and who's controlling it. And it leads to suffering and leads to the accumulation of power and then the abuse of that power. And if you start to look under the hood of it and the spiritual, like, why would I even need to say that I own this land? Like, it's poverty thinking. It's lack thinking. If somebody wants to come and take this land from me, if that is the will of the divine, it doesn't matter what's list it's on. And if it's the will of the divine that they're going to take it, then they're going to be able to take it, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. Now, conversely, if it is the will of the divine that I will keep this land, then there's nothing anyone can do to take it from me. And that has indeed been the case. I had to fight off a foreclosure. Multiple banks wanted to take this land from me, and I really didn't have the resources to combat, not in the physical realm, but I had the resources in the spiritual realm. I had my faith. And because of my faith, they were not able to take this land. But do I really own it? And do I even really own myself? So it is goodness that owns all the land. And it is the absolute divine that owns all the gold and all the lands everywhere. And when you look at self-ownership, do we even really own ourselves? No, we are possessed, and we are the possession of goodness. Goodness owns us, and we are possessed by goodness. And if we don't acknowledge that, and if we don't yield to the ownership of goodness, well, there's one other guy that can own us, and we don't want to be owned or possessed by him. And then he himself is also actually owned and subject to the will of absolute goodness. So we're entering into an era in which a lot of these lists are going to go away. It might take years, it might take a generation, but it is inevitable. These lists of who owns what has not always existed, and they will not always exist, and they had a beginning, therefore they're going to have an end. And a lot of the ancient cultures, they viewed these lists, these registries, the owning the land, they viewed it as an evil, because they acknowledged that the land was owned by goodness, and really we're just stewards of the land on behalf of goodness. And if we don't treat the land well, then that which is good will take the land from us.
Yeah, great point there. And I love how you always bring it back to the more that we try and define things and contain things and all of that, it's a tool of ultimately the enemy to sort of, it puts the intellect in charge, and it takes away from the inherent connection to all. When you're defining things, you're compartmentalizing it, you're creating borders and separations and defining things with ownership and all of that. And that's stepping away from, that's like giving power to the individualized ego, but stepping away from the connected space of this experience. So thanks for bringing that up. And yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Marlena, did you want to speak? I passed over you. Go ahead. Marlena, did you want to share anything? Or maybe that was an accident earlier. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping up because I've got 2 more songs to share with you guys. I want to make sure we have enough time for that. So just wanted to, just thank you all for being here today. This has been another wonderful discussion. Really appreciate Carrie, thanks for coming on. Thanks everybody else for participating and sharing and being open just about this whole experience. And I'm looking forward to the next week, the next opportunity that we get to share this space together. So we'll continue doing this every Thursday at the same time. And just some announcements to make. I'll be doing another watch party tomorrow evening. I'm not sure what time, but I'll put an announcement out for that. We'll watch another good movie together. And then on Sunday, so just to make an announcement here, on Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, so that's 2 p.m. Pacific, Darth is gonna give a presentation on the religion of Islam. So we had a great question about the Quran and getting a good source of that, and so I asked Darth, and he got really excited about this topic and has a lot to share. So he's been diligently working to put a presentation together. And so on Sunday, we are going to do that. And I'm not sure exactly what platform we're going to do it on, but stay tuned for an announcement on that. But just wanted to go ahead and put the word out. It should be a really interesting discussion because, won't give too much away, but essentially this religion was constructed it was constructed by the cabal to add another layer of deception. And so it'll be interesting to go over that, and we'll probably do a series on this where we go over the major religions and kind of their origins and initial intent and how they've been distorted and all of these other kind of things. So it should be an interesting conversation. So just wanted to mention that. And again, thanks all for being here. Sending out love to everybody as always. And I'm just going to close out with these 2 songs. So enjoy. And these songs are, let's see, which ones are we going to go with? I'm going to play, it was hard to choose. I love a lot of these songs. I listed this song Sweet Surrender in the post I made the other day, so I think I'll hold off on that one. So we'll play Baby I'ma Want You and Make It With You. So just in these songs, as you're reading the lyrics, view it from the perspective of, is this a song about God? Is this a song about coming back to that connection again? So enjoy. I love you all so very much, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone.